Welcome to Inside the League, where business is the ultimate sport and the scoreboard never lies. Now here's the commissioner, Lee Godbold.
All right, everybody, welcome to episode 4 of Inside the League, the podcast for the Bold Business League that happens every single week. Today's episode is brought to you by Specialty Truck Bodies. You can check them out at junkremovaltrucksforsale.com. Okay, one of the largest questions in junk removal, if you're in a junk removal business, is very simple. It's how do you set your pricing and how do you know if it's right? And honestly, in terms of independent junk removal businesses, I don't know if anybody's ever really nailed this. Some of the franchise systems might, but typically if you're an independent junk removal business owner, you're researching what your competitors are charging. So you're assuming that they've done it correctly, that your Junk Kings and Got Junks and Junk Luggers have done this right, or maybe some of the local competitors. You might look at once it's established and you've got like a profit and loss statement and you're tracking your cost of goods sold and you have that dialed in, you might look at your profitability and say, hey, I want to make X amount of money. But do you truly know, are you leaving money on the table? And I believe in the most case, the answer to that is yes, because we've been in this junk removal business for 12, 13, 14 years now. And anytime that us or anybody I know of that's raised prices, have never had any sort of pushback. There's never been any sustained, measurable decrease in price or in close rates, I guess, and how busy they are. It's just not sustained. Maybe that's temporary, but if you look at it over weeks and months, there's never any sustainable decrease. So what all of the Bold Business League team members are doing now, we're leading a creation of a system, of a piece of software and program where we will actually do incremental price increases. And we're going to hit different price points. We're going to hit the middle price points first. And then, we're going to hit different price points at different times and the minimum and full load at different times. And there's going to be a certain number of jobs that we complete. And we're going to monitor different things: phone close rate, on-site close rate, average job sale, gross profit percentage, net promoter score, which is a customer satisfaction ranking. And we're going to take a look as we increase these prices incrementally. We're talking just a few percentage points over a certain number of jobs. We're going to map out the effect that change has on those different metrics. And eventually we're going to be able to determine what is the maximum pricing at each individual price point that your market can sustain and can bear. And at what point does customer satisfaction begin to drop and close rates begin to drop? And at that point, you can back it up or maybe even push through a little further and map out, hey, what happens to gross profit percentage and close rates and everything like that if we go even further? So this is an ongoing scientific experiment, and probably some of your big franchises maybe have done that. I doubt they do it on a regular basis. I simply do. But this is going to now just find out not only can you hit the numbers you need to be profitable, but can you find exactly what your individual market will bear? And this is probably something you're going to want to run about twice a year. And it's going to take a little time, the first time you do it especially, to find that sweet spot. Hopefully we're running this experiment for several months because that means we're leaving a lot of money on the table. The goal is to find that curve where you make the most money without significantly affecting your customer satisfaction or your close rates. So to put this in perspective, we mapped out just a 2% price difference with Junk Doctors led by Christian Fowler, and it could result in a $25,000 in additional profit. That's just 2%. I think there's a lot more left on the table than 2%. But 25 grand profit difference there. In most home service industries, if you find a way to increase if you find a way to increase your pricing by 20%, it will actually triple your profits. There's a finite overhead on home services. And if you're able to increase that pricing by offering better brand, better service, finding better clients, whatever you need, you can do in order to achieve that 20% price increase, you'll actually triple your profits. Now, will we find with most companies a 20% price increase with this experiment? Probably not. But if you do this and we find 2, 4, 6, 8, 10% here, and then there's other things that we can do over time to get that additional 10%, then a company making 100 grand goes to making 300 grand. A company making 300 grand goes to making 900 grand with the same amount of customers just by increasing pricing. So we want to create a science out of what has been traditionally in the home service space for independent owners, has been just kind of a guessing game. We want to actually put some science behind it. This one experiment alone, I think for the majority of our players will more than pay for their league membership for the entire year. And that's what we're all about here. We're all about finding things that will push a far amount more value in terms of what they receive, in terms of the amount of money they profit and make than the cost of league membership. And I think this one thing can pay for the entire year alone. And this is an ongoing thing too. So this is a process you put in place, you do repeatedly, and for years and years and years, it's going to make a huge difference in the amount of money your business makes, the amount of freedom you have in your life, and the amount of money your business is eventually worth when that time comes to cash out and sell. Moving on to cold calling. So as we know, the league this particular quarter is really focusing in on cold outreach to build up the commercial job percentage. And we do have an update. Christian with Junk Doctors, leads the Junk Doctors team, has hired a SDR, a sales development rep. His name is Fabian, and Fabian's been doing calls just not quite 2 weeks yet. He's made 92 calls. This is a part-time position. He's made 92 calls. He's got 10 booked appointments for Christian to actually meet in person with commercial prospects. So cold calling is something that is not fun. It's not something that a lot of people do in the business, which is excellent because that means there's a lot of money being left on the table. It is a volume game in a way, but it is also very much a pitch play as well. How good is your pitch? How good is your messaging? And are you testing it? And that's something that we're consistently working on within the league. Now, Junk Doctors is one of the first to get started with the cold calling, and we expect some other players to be on board soon. The entire league as a whole is working on the email outreach. So email outreach paired with in-person visits and your cold calling creates a method of just consistent messaging from your company. So prospects are getting hit from several different angles. And that way, if they see your messaging 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, an email alone will send 7 messages over a period of time to the same prospect. You add in the cold calling, you add in in-person visits, and not that you're going to close every single one of them, but they're at least going to know who you are. And that's the first stage to landing these commercial prospects is, hey, let them know who you are. That way, once they need your service, they know and can remember exactly who they need to call. Instead of going to Google, which you're competing against so many other companies there, they're going to know exactly who you are, and they're going to reach out to you. Talking about email outreach and the cold outreach that we're doing, the league has just hired its very first league-approved cold email virtual assistant. So Hans, out of the Philippines, has joined as the very first league-approved VA. Now, he's got a ton of experience with cold email outreach, really sharp guy. We expect great things out of him. He is going to be running Rocket Robert. Robert is the architect of a lot of our league systems here. He's going to be running Rocket Robert's email system and getting it implemented across all the different players that choose to use this program, which I expect the majority of to do that. So Hans can't handle everybody. It's going to be kind of first come, first serve. He's getting going with the Junk Doctor stuff right now, and we'll get started with a couple other players by the end of the week. We do have 2 other league-approved VAs that are working their way through the certification process right now. So again, the league finds them. We train them and certify them. They already know what they're doing, but we get them trained and certified on our system. We make sure they're good to go. And then the league is going to track their results over time amongst all the players they work with. You don't pay Bold Business League anything. We are not in the fulfillment business. We're in the mastermind and teamwork and building business, coaching business, connecting business. We're not in the fulfillment side. So you're going to pay these league approved VAs direct. We just monitor to make sure they're doing well. And we work with other league players and all the league players to make sure that we perfect this system. So we work with the VAs, the experts, and then we work with the league players. We refine scripts and we test. And we ultimately are going to come up with an email system that just works as good as cold outreach email systems are going to work in the junk removal space. We'll never stop that fight. That's something the league's all about, is consistently just hammering on these things, these repeated systems that can sometimes be a little boring, but if you do it for months at a time and eventually years at a time, are going to make a massive difference on everybody that follows these systems. So glad to have Hans, glad to get started and really nail on this cold email outreach. There's a little going on right now, but now we're about to kick it into high gear. I expect all players by the end of the year to be sending out hundreds of emails a day, and beginning of next year, thousands of email, or over 1,000 emails per day going to a list of different commercial prospect categories of 50 plus. This is a massive outreach campaign that will result in much higher commercial job percentage, much higher repeat customer rates, better average job sales, and ultimately more profitability for your company. And the great thing is it's something that the majority of home services are not doing. Even though it converts at a low percentage rate, it's all the volume that's going out, and it's combining with all the other outreach efforts that you're going to have, and you're going to build something really amazing that's going to make a big difference in your business. All right, shifting over to one of my favorite sections of Inside the League. Let's talk about player spotlights. We have a couple we have bits of news that we want to share. Number one, Andrew Workentine from Top Dog. Congratulations, man. Andrew got married October 25th, so we're really excited for Andrew. He took a little bit of time off work to go off and enjoy his wedding and a honeymoon. And Andrew, hope you wish you a great marriage. Congratulations there again, Andrew Workentine, Top Dog, got married October 25th. Brad Scott from Junk Busters is out there. He has landed another vendor contract doing the outreach program, the apartment outreach program. Great job there, Brad. Always happy to celebrate with you. And Kyle, he's the leader of the KJ Holloway team out in Iowa. Just landed a major commercial job that's actually going to run into next year. So he starts it at the end of the month. It's going to run to into next year. Huge job. Absolutely huge job. Congratulations there, Kyle. Can't wait to get some updates and see some pictures as you start completing that job. So just a few player highlights. There's more than that. But those are three of the ones that were kind of really big over this past week. All right, now we get down into kind of the heartbeat of the league, the scoreboard. And we're going to go over our leaders from last week. That's November 3rd through November 9th. So top three in revenue, reporting in. Number one, the Junk Doctors team led by Christian Fowler. We have Junk MD, another one of those Junk Doctors, Junk MD. Completely opposite coast, led by David Leddick out of San Diego, came in number two. And the Junk Hammers team out of the Philly area, led by Frank White and Frank Brown, finished out the top three. Now, average job sale, important metric. Average job sale and load spread work together. So average job sales, again, what's the average amount of revenue that you generate for every job that you do? Load spread is what's the difference between your full load and your AJS. Now, the reason we track load spread is that helps us take out the differences that occur from market to market. So each market, some markets or a lot of markets are different. All markets are different in terms of how profitable and what you have to charge to make a certain profit. Disposal fees vary a ton. I mean, you've got disposal fees in some areas at $40 a ton. You have in other areas at $300 a ton. Traffic, how long your drive time is, how much you pay in fuel, and how much you have to pay in labor, all that varies. So we do load spread to determine, all right, let's take away the geographical differences and let's find out who's actually kind of getting the most per job. So AJS champ, Brad Scott, Junk Busters, he is consistently leading this category. The guys just gets big jobs. He gets a lot of commercial jobs. We talk about the commercial outreach. Brad does excellent getting commercial jobs. He gets really big jobs. So Brad Scott, leader of the AJS. Right behind him, Nick Grunseth and Mason Eads. They're the leaders of the community chest junk removal out of Greensboro, North Carolina. And then followed by Dave Leddick again with Junk MD. Now, load spread, we saw Brad with Junk Busters, Nick and Mason with TCC, and then Kyle with KJ Holloway slipped in there. Those are your top three for load spread. Revenue per payroll hour, we've got Brad Scott again with Junk Busters. We're hearing a consistent name here. Andrew Warkentine, top dog out of Georgia. And then Christian slipped in at number 3 with revenue per payroll hour. That's the Junk Doctors team in North Carolina. Highest gross profit percentage, Kyle with KJ, Mason and Nick with TCC. And again, here's Brad with Junk Busters with the highest gross profit percentage. Phone close rate, Andrew with Top Dog, Christian with Junk Doctors, and then Brad one more time with Junk Busters slipping in at number 3 on PCR. On-site close rate, Dave with Junk MD led the way. Brad with Junk Busters came in number 2. Brian Richardson came in at number 3. Brian is out of the Indy area. And actually, all of them closed 100% of the jobs they showed up with. The highest commercial job percentage, we've got Dave with Junk MD, Brad with Junk Busters, and Brian with Veteran Hauling. Came in at the highest commercial job percentage. And those are your stats for the week. So some of the things we sit here and look at is, all right, we had a lot of guys, the same names we were hearing. Brian, Brad, Nick and Mason. A lot of these guys have the highest commercial job percentage, which allows them to oftentimes have the largest jobs. So that's is very interesting to look at. Now, if you look at the on-site close rate at 100%, you really don't want to be closing generally 100% of your jobs. So if that's something that happens consistently over time, you got to think, hey, can we increase pricing? Well, luckily, we're going to be doing that scientific pricing study, so you'll be able to monitor those PCR and those on-site close rates and figure out as you raise pricing, what's that sweet spot there? 100% isn't it. 95% is pretty good, but you might even find 90, 93% on-site close rate is maybe where you need to be able to maximize that gross profit percentage and just figure out, hey, are we charging enough? So that'll be something that we'll kind of observe over time. All right, a little bit of league business here. Huddle and mastermind schedule. So again, the league is made up of your in-person quarterly masterminds for the major league. You get 4 of those. If you're in the minor league, you get 2 in-person masterminds that are where we do the full event, and we also map out your next 90 days. 2 of those are in person, and then you get 2 virtual. So in between those planning 90-day mastermind sessions, we also have our monthly sessions that are check-ins, and these are 2-hour calls with your huddle group. So our next check-in call is Wednesday and Thursday, November 19th and 20th, and we have established that the third Wednesday and the third Thursday of every month, depending on which huddle group you're a part of, will now be our monthly mastermind check-in sessions. On those sessions, we figure out, hey, are you on track? If you're off track, we figure out the obstacles that you're facing, and then we work as a group to get you recalibrated and refocused. That way you can complete the things you set out to do when you made those 90-day commitments at the in-person training camp or the virtual training camp if you're in the minor league. All right, everybody. So here is the mission of the league. Here's the mission of everything that we're doing here at the Bold Business League. And I even put out a video early this week. I actually printed something out and put it on the mirror in my bathroom that says, what can I do today to make my players more money and make them more profitable? And that's what this is all about, guys. This is all about all of us working together to make ourselves more profitable. It is a commitment. It is asking you to do things that are a little outside of your comfort zone. It's asking you to not only think about your own company, but think about the others that are a part of your huddle group, knowing that if we help each other out, ultimately what's going to happen is we're going to help ourselves out. So I'm going to continue to create an environment and create software that keeps us all focused, to keep us competitive, to keep us collaborating, to keep us holding each other accountable. And if you do that, if you're a league member and you do that, I expect great things. We're going to have a lot of fun watching each other grow. This episode, as the first 4 have all been brought to you by, is Specialty Truck Bodies, the maker of junk removal specific trucks. You can check them out at junkremovaltrucksforsale.com. I am your commissioner, Lee Godbold, and this is Inside the League, the podcast, the weekly podcast brought to you by the Bold Business League. We'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for listening to Inside the League, where business is the ultimate sport and the scoreboard never lies. Visit boldbusinessleague.com for more info to find out how the league works and try out for the draft to claim your territory.